Have you ever stopped to think about where the most epic stories we still hear today come from? The legends of the Greek gods, with their battles, betrayals, and supernatural powers, have an origin far more fascinating than you might imagine. And what you may not know is that it all started in chaos, a deep void where nothing existed until the emergence of the first beings that would shape the universe. In this video, we'll explore the incredible creation of Greek mythology, how the gods were born, what fueled their conflicts, and how this story has influenced us to this day. Get ready for a journey where we'll uncover the secrets of the gods' birth and the impact they have even in our modern world. But before we dive into Mount Olympus, let me ask you, did you know that the fate of the universe was decided by beings that didn't even have human form? Stay with me until the end to discover all of this and much more. Long before science explained the mysteries of the universe, ancient peoples sought answers to everything they saw around them. The rising and setting of the sun, the storms that ripped through the sky with thunder, the fertility of the earth, death, and what came after, all needed an explanation. That's how mythologies were born, stories passed down from generation to generation that not only explained the world, but also taught values, guided societies, and gave meaning to human life. These stories varied from culture to culture. In Egypt, the world arose from the waters of chaos, and the gods controlled order and balance. Among the Norse, the universe was born from the clash of fire and ice, and the gods fought constant battles against giants and threatening creatures. In Greece, however, mythology took a form that would forever influence Western civilization. It was through the words of two great poets that Greek mythology was solidified, Homer and Hesiod. Homer, with his Iliad and Odyssey, not only told stories of epic battles and dangerous journeys, but shaped the image of the Greek gods as powerful and temperamental beings who constantly interfered with the fates of mortals. His heroes, like Achilles and Odysseus, represented both virtues and human flaws, showing that even the greatest could fall victim to their own choices. Meanwhile, Hesiod did something even deeper. In his work Theogony, he not only narrated adventures, but explained how everything began. He described the origin of the universe, the birth of the first gods, and the structure of the cosmos. For the Greeks, the world did not come from nothing, but from primordial forces that gave rise to the reality as we know it. As the centuries passed, these stories changed and adapted. Each generation retold the myths in its own way, shaping them according to its own beliefs and needs. Today, even in a world where science has explained many of the questions once attributed to the gods, mythology remains alive. It appears in books, movies, and TV series, whether in the form of modern heroes inspired by ancient myths or in stories that revisit these characters and their journeys. But before Zeus hurled his thunderbolts from high on Mount Olympus, before Poseidon raised the waves and Hades ruled the underworld, there was nothing. No gods, no men, no world. Only the infinite, dark, and silent void. Chaos reigned supreme, waiting for the moment when the universe would begin to take shape. In the beginning, before anything existed, there was only chaos, but it was not a being nor a god. It was a state, an immense and infinite emptiness, without form, time, or light. Everything we know was dormant within it, waiting for the right moment to awaken. And then, without warning, the universe began to move. From chaos itself, Gaia emerged, Earth, firm and vast, mother of all that was yet to come. She was not just the ground beneath the feet of gods and mortals, but a living, powerful being that felt, thought, and created. Soon after, others were born from this primordial void. Tartarus, the deep and dark abyss that would one day serve as a prison for the damned. Erebus, the thick, invisible darkness that filled the spaces between everything that existed. And Nyx, night, silent and mysterious, covering the newly born world with her black cloak. Each of them played a fundamental role in the structure of the cosmos. Gaia would be the foundation where gods and mortals would dwell. Tartarus would serve as the fate of the most feared beings, a place below everything, where even the gods would tremble at the thought of falling. Erebus would reign over the dark corners, and Nyx would bring rest and fear, the promise of a new dawn, but also the hidden secrets in the darkness. But the creation of the world was only beginning. Gaia, feeling lonely in the infinite void, prepared to give birth to something even greater. Within her, life stirred, ready to bring forth a new presence that would transform everything. For soon, Uranus, the sky, would emerge, and with him, order and destiny would begin to take shape. As Gaia prepared to shape the world, night, silent and deep, gave birth to her own creations. Nyx, shrouded in shadows and mysteries, didn't need a partner to bring forth life. From her own being, she gave birth to invisible but powerful forces that would influence the fate of gods and mortals alike. The first to be born was Hypnos, sleep. Invisible and gentle, he descended upon living beings, bringing rest and dreams. But where there was sleep, soon came his twin brother, Thanatos, death, who walked silently and inevitably. Unlike the gods, Thanatos felt neither hatred nor pleasure. He simply did his job, carrying souls to the other side, indifferent to pleas or laments. Next came Eris, discord, whose subtle touch spread conflict and rivalry. Her presence alone would cause brothers to fight, friends to become enemies, and cities to fall into war. It was she who, centuries later, would spark the Trojan War by tossing a golden apple among the goddesses of Olympus, starting a deadly dispute. Nyx also gave birth to Nemesis, the goddess of revenge and relentless justice. She was the one who balanced fate, ensuring that those who abused their luck or committed ruthless acts would receive their due punishment. Not even the gods could escape her wrath. Many others were born from Nyx's womb: deception, misery, sorrow, fear. Her creations were invisible forces, but as real as the universe itself. They would shape the behavior of both gods and men, ensuring that the world was not only light and order, but also shadow and chaos. But while night gave birth to these hidden entities, Gaia felt that her own creation was still incomplete. The earth needed something greater, something that would cover and surround it. And so, without needing a partner, she created Uranus, the sky. The world was beginning to take shape, and a new power was emerging to start the lineage of the gods. The universe was still young, a newly formed stage where primordial forces wandered aimlessly. Gaia, the vast and imposing earth, felt incomplete. Her surface was solid, fertile, full of life's potential, but something was missing: a boundary, a complement that would surround her, give her shape and balance. And so, from her own being, without the need for a partner, Gaia gave birth to Uranus, the sky. He emerged majestic, blue and infinite, covering her completely, spreading over her like a starry cloak. Uranus was immense, brilliant, and his clouds stretched like protective arms, touching every corner of the earth. Gaia, upon feeling his presence, knew the universe was finally expanding, that something grand was about to begin. Uranus, with his endless vastness, looked upon Gaia and enveloped her with his presence. Together they formed a perfect balance. He, the sky, always above, vigilant and powerful. She, the earth, stable, generous, and fertile. From this natural union, Gaia began to give birth to the first beings that would truly shape the destiny of the cosmos, the primordial gods who would rule the world. But not everything would be harmony and peace. For though Uranus brought structure to the nascent universe, he also carried with him a trait that sooner or later would prove dangerous: an uncontrollable desire for power, a deep fear of losing control over everything that existed. And so, while Gaia was giving birth to her first children, the fate of the gods was beginning to unfold. Soon, the universe would witness the rise of magnificent beings, the ascension and fall of kingdoms, and a war that would shake creation itself. For from the children of Gaia and Uranus would come the Titans, and with them a new era was about to begin. At first, Gaia and Uranus seemed to form a perfect union. He, the vast starry sky, embraced the earth, covering it completely every night. She, firm and fertile, felt the life pulse within her, ready to bring forth a new generation of divine beings. And so it happened. From their bodies emerged the first children, the Titans, imposing and powerful beings who carried both Gaia's creative force and Uranus's grandeur. They were closer to the gods that would come later, with magnificent forms and powers that would echo through eternity. The first to be born were Oceanus, the titan of the waters that surrounded the world; Chaos, the titan of intelligence and prophecy; Creus, the lord of the Ram constellation and the cycles of time; Hyperion, who would one day give rise to the sun itself; and Iapetus, whose legacy would be directly linked to the humanity that had yet to exist. But the most feared among them would be Cronus, the titan of time, cunning and ambitious, whose destiny would lead him to challenge his own father. Alongside these brothers came the Titanesses: Theia, the goddess of sight and celestial light; Rhea, who would become the mother of the Olympian gods; Themis, the guardian of justice and order; Mnemosyne, the living memory of the universe; Phoebe, the titaness of wisdom; and Tethys, who would rule the oceans alongside Oceanus. Each one of them represented a fundamental aspect of reality, and Gaia loved them deeply. But Uranus, seeing them grow and gain strength, began to feel deep fear. He knew his children were powerful, and he feared that one day they might challenge him. His desire to maintain his absolute rule turned into tyranny. He began to oppress his own children, keeping them under his control, preventing them from taking their places in the world. Increasingly authoritarian, Uranus tried to ensure that no one would ever threaten his reign. Gaia, who had given birth to these beings with love and hope, began to feel a silent pain. She saw the suffering of her children and knew something had to be done. The time for harmony between her and Uranus was running out. And in Gaia's womb, new creatures were forming. Different beings, wilder, more powerful, creatures that Uranus would fear even more, and that would seal the fate of this first great king of the universe. The universe, now formed by the hands of Gaia and Uranus, seemed on the brink of a great event. The sky, with its vastness, covered the earth, and the primordial deities had given birth to a new generation of beings, the Titans. They were powerful children, with grand forms, who would soon play central roles in the destiny of the cosmos. Each of the 12 Titans carried with them a unique quality, an expression of the very balance that Gaia desired for the world. Oceanus, the first to emerge, with his grandeur and fluidity, represented the waters that wound around the earth. Chaos, the thinker, had an intellect as vast as the cosmos itself, and a vision that surpassed the boundaries of what was known. Creus, with his connection to time and natural cycles, governed the seasons and the movements of the sky. But the Titans were not merely beings of power and majesty. They had a fundamental importance for the creation of the world and the natural order. Hyperion, with his dominion over the sun, and Iapetus, whose offspring would bring about humanity, represented even deeper forces that would form the foundation of what gods and mortals would understand as the essence of life. Among the Titanesses, the sisters who shared the sky and the earth with their brothers, were Rhea, who would soon become the mother of the Olympian gods; Theia, connected to celestial light and the vision of the stars; Themis, the ruler of cosmic justice; Mnemosyne, who would hold the ancient knowledge in her memory; Phoebe, the one who symbolized eternal wisdom; and Tethys, who would share the seas with Oceanus. Despite their strength and importance, the Titans were far from living in peace. The conflict with Uranus's reign was already taking shape. Gaia, who had conceived them with the intention of bringing balance and stability to the world, now found herself in a difficult position. Uranus, her partner, was becoming increasingly cruel and tyrannical, preventing her own children from taking their places in the universe. He feared the growing power of the Titans and thus imprisoned them in a distant and dark place, the Tartarus, where they could not grow or challenge his reign. Gaia, seeing the injustice her children faced, could no longer bear to see them imprisoned. She knew something had to be done. The pain in her heart, which had once been silent, now burned and demanded action. It was then that, for the first time, Gaia separated from Uranus, plotting a secret plan, a move that would change the fate of all beings in the cosmos. Rebellion began to form in the shadows of the Earth. It was only a matter of time before the universe would witness the greatest blow against Uranus's tyranny. The moment of change was approaching, and the Titans, though imprisoned, would not allow the fear of the sky to override their will. As the universe expanded, amidst the growing tension between Gaia and Uranus, something even more mysterious and terrifying began to emerge from the womb of the Earth. Gaia, with her fertile and creative nature, had conceived children that defied the very understanding of the gods and Titans themselves. They were monstrous creatures, unlike anything that had emerged before. Cyclopes and Hecatonchires, being so powerful and imposing that their very existence seemed to threaten the balance of the cosmos. The Cyclopes, three brothers with single eyes, were giants of unmatched strength, forgers of pure magic and skill. Their names, Brontes, Steropes, and Arges, were echoed in legends, and their power to forge thunder and lightning would ensure Zeus's supremacy in the future. But as grand as they were also creatures of unsettling power, terrifying anyone who dared to challenge them. The Hecatonchires, beings with 100 arms and 50 heads, were the embodiment of chaos and destruction. Each one possessed monumental strength, capable of moving mountains and shaking the world's structure. Cottus, Briareus, and Gyges, these three brothers, were born with immense fury, possessing the strength of an entire army in their bodies. Though their monstrous forms represented a threat, their true nature was beyond mere appearance. They were bearers of an ancient violence that, if unleashed, could destroy the very universe itself. When Uranus, the sky, looked at these creatures, his reaction was a mix of horror and contempt, not only because of their monstrous appearance, but because of the idea that these new forms of life might one day challenge his authority. Fear gripped Uranus, who could not bear to see his own creations in such magnitude and deformity. Fearing deeply that the Hecatonchires and the Cyclopes might become the agents of his downfall, he decided to take a cruel action. Uranus imprisoned Gaia's monstrous children in Tartarus, the deep and dark abyss that lay in the depths of the world, far from the eyes of all. He feared their strength so much that he preferred to bury them in this vast and dark place where their cries would never be heard. Gaia, the mother who loved all her children equally, was devastated by Uranus's decision. She felt the pain of her imprisoned children and the injustice that befell them. The love she had for the powerful, though monstrous creatures made her realize that something needed to be done. The suffering of seeing her children trapped and her own creation torn apart by Uranus's tyranny made each day more unbearable. It was at this moment of despair that Gaia began to plan a great revolt. Her heart was already filled with bitterness and pain. She knew that for her children, both the Titans and the monstrous ones, to have a chance to rise, she would need help. She then made an appeal, a call to those willing to fight against Uranus's empire. Time was running out, the future was about to change, and rebellion against Uranus was beginning to take shape. Gaia's suffering was visible to all the gods. She who had created the earth and given rise to so many forms of life now felt the pain of her children imprisoned and the tyranny of Uranus. For centuries, she had tolerated her partner's cruel actions, but now she could no longer remain still. A mother's love, after all, knows no bounds, and Gaia would not rest while her children, the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires, remained trapped in the depths of Tartarus. It was then that Gaia, with the strength of her unbreakable spirit, devised a plan for revenge. She knew she needed allies, so she summoned the children of Uranus, the Titans, who, although powerful, were still afraid to face their father. Uranus was the sky, the ruler of the cosmos, and many of the Titans still hesitated to challenge his authority, fearing the consequences of such boldness. But Gaia's pain touched them, and the bravest among them began to heed her call. Among them was the Titan Cronus, who had always been the most cunning and bold. He understood the need to act, not only to free his monstrous siblings, but also to ensure that the order of the cosmos would be restored and Uranus's reign would come to an end. He knew that this confrontation wouldn't be easy, but he felt a growing strength within himself, a force that pushed him to challenge the very sky. Gaia then provided him with the adamantine sickle, an unbeatable weapon made of metal so strong it could cut through even the sky itself. It was the key to Uranus's defeat, and Cronus knew it. The power of Gaia and the fate of the monstrous children now lay in Cronus's hands. With the sickle in hand, Cronus went to the other Titans, gathering forces for the approaching battle. The revolt would not be silent. It would be a cry for freedom, a cry for justice, for those who had been oppressed for so long. The battle took place under the cover of night, when Uranus approached Gaia, believing the sky would once again be his protection. But it was then that the blow was struck. Cronus, with the adamantine sickle in his hand, attacked Uranus, cutting him mercilessly. The sky, once invincible, was now fallen. The impact of the blow was felt throughout the cosmos, and Uranus himself, who had ruled since the beginning of time, was castrated and cast down from his celestial throne. His blood, which poured onto the earth, gave rise to new entities, the Furies, goddesses of vengeance, the giants, and even Aphrodite, the goddess of love, who emerged from the sea foam. With Uranus's fall, Cronus's power was solidified. He had fulfilled his promise to free Gaia's children and defeat his father's tyranny. But this victory also meant that the balance of the cosmos was about to be challenged once again. Cronus's reign had only just begun, and Gaia knew the future would be filled with new challenges and twists, for the fall of Uranus did not mark the end of the struggles, but the beginning of a new era, a time that sooner or later would bring new battles for supremacy in the universe. With Uranus defeated and the sky cast down, the universe seemed to have reached a new balance. Cronus, now sovereign of the cosmos, took the throne and prepared to rule with an iron fist. The Titans stood by his side, and the fear that had once ruled over them due to Uranus's tyranny was now dissipating. The earth was at peace, but a new threat emerged, something even Cronus could not foresee: Gaia's prophecy. Gaia, the mother who had planned Uranus's fall, knew that Cronus's future would be dark. She had heard the whispers of fate. One of his children would overthrow him, just as he had done to Uranus. Cronus's fear was palpable, for he too knew Gaia's words. He feared that one day one of his own children would dethrone him, just as he had done to his father. Anxiety consumed him, and he decided to act. Cronus, now immersed in paranoia, felt that the only way to prevent the prophecy from coming true was to eliminate any chance of his children challenging him. And so he did the unthinkable. Alongside his wife, Rhea, he devoured each of the children she gave him. Hestia, Hades, Demeter, Poseidon, and Hera were swallowed by Cronus right after birth, consumed by his thirst for power and control. Each child was a potential challenger, and by devouring each one, Cronus believed he was protecting his position of power. Rhea's pain was indescribable. A loving mother, she watched in agony as her children were swallowed one by one, powerless to do anything. Each cry of suffering that echoed within Cronus's belly tore pieces of her heart. When she became pregnant with Zeus, she knew she could not let him become yet another victim of her husband's tyranny. With a clever plan, Rhea sought Gaia's help, who had already suffered greatly from Cronus's actions. Together, they devised a plan to save Zeus. When he was born, Rhea secretly hid him, giving birth to him in a distant cave, far from Cronus's sight. In his place, she gave Cronus a stone wrapped in cloth, disguised as the newborn Zeus. Cronus, trusting the ruse, swallowed the stone without question. The god of time believed he had in fact devoured his son, but the true Zeus was being carefully protected and nourished, far from his father's greed. Time passed, and Zeus grew in secret, under the protection of the nymphs and the goat Amalthea, who fed him with milk that gave him power. He was trained and prepared for the battle he would one day have to face, the battle for freedom, to end Cronus's tyranny and restore justice to the cosmos. Zeus's wait was about to end, and Cronus's fate was about to be sealed. When the time came, the revolution against Cronus's tyranny would begin. Justice would finally be served, and the universe would experience an irreversible change in which the forces of destruction and creation would unite once more. Cronus's victory over Uranus seemed to have given him everything he had ever wanted. He was the king of the universe, ruling the earth with absolute and immeasurable power. The Titans were under his command, and the order of the cosmos was, to him, finally established. The peace he sought, however, was a tense and fragile one. Cronus believed his rule would be eternal, that nothing could threaten his supremacy. To consolidate his power further, he married Rhea, his sister and wife, and made her his queen. Together, they formed the foundation of a new order, or so Cronus imagined. He saw his reign as just and necessary, a natural continuation of his victory over Uranus. He believed that under his leadership, chaos had finally been tamed, that the universe was in balance, and that he would rule forever, free from the threats of the past. But contrary to Cronus's belief, his reign was not based on true harmony, but on fear and oppression. True peace could never exist under the tyranny of a god who devoured his own children out of fear of a future he could not control. Each child he swallowed not only weakened his humanity, but also the connection to the true essence of the cosmos. Rhea, though she loved Cronus, knew that he had become a prisoner of his own fears. The pain of losing her children, one by one, ate at her heart. She saw Cronus's suffering, feeling that he was becoming more and more consumed by paranoia and the need to maintain his dominion at any cost. And despite the presence and love she still felt for him, Rhea could no longer allow her children's lives to be sacrificed in this way. Gaia's promise hung in the air, and the words of a prophecy that Cronus so feared echoed louder and louder in his mind. It was inevitable. One of his children would challenge him. Even in his position of power, Cronus knew that his reign was destined to end, that his time would come. But deep down he did not know how close that destiny was. The true change was about to happen, and nothing could stop what was destined to occur. The child of Rhea and Cronus, whom he believed he had swallowed, was growing in secret, nourished by Gaia's hope and the careful hands of his protectors, the nymphs. This future could not be altered. Zeus was already maturing for the great battle that would forever change the course of the universe. And while Cronus ruled with an iron fist, he did not know that the end of his reign was near, and that the next great chapter of history would soon begin, with the rise of a new leader. Time passed, and the land was filled with rumors about the future. Kronos' reign seemed unshakable, but something in his heart could not rid itself of the restlessness that haunted him. He knew the peace he sought was not real. There was something dark in the air, something he could not identify, but it deeply unsettled him. He remembered the words of Gaia, the mother of Earth, who had prophesied his downfall. She had spoken to him about the fate of his reign, something he could not avoid. One of his children would dethrone him and take his place on the throne. This prophecy haunted him day and night. The thought of being overthrown by one of his own children consumed him. He could not let that happen, not while he was at the height of his power. It was this anxiety that led him to commit cruel acts against his children, such as swallowing them immediately after birth. Kronos believed that by doing so, he would ensure that the prophecy would not come true. But as always happens with destinies woven by the gods, Kronos' actions only hastened the inevitable. Gaia's prophecy became more and more concrete as time passed. Fate waited, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And that moment was much closer than Kronos imagined. But Kronos was not alone in his fight against fate. Rhea, his wife and sister, had known about the prophecy for a long time. She knew that one day her children would be her greatest hope, but she also knew that Kronos' destruction was a necessary evil. Her heart bled as she saw her children devoured one by one, but there was nothing she could do but endure. Meanwhile, the universe continued its journey, and the winds of change began to blow stronger. Zeus, the son Kronos believed he had devoured, was safe, far from the tyranny of his father, being carefully nourished and protected. He grew in strength and wisdom, unaware of the monumental task awaiting him. Gaia knew this, and she also felt that the moment was nearing. The prophecy that Kronos would be dethroned was not a mere prediction. It was an inevitable truth that sooner or later would come to pass. And Gaia, with her ancient wisdom, knew that the only way to restore balance to the universe was through Kronos' fall and the rise of a new leader. Zeus was about to become the catalyst for this cosmic revolution. It was time to end Kronos' reign and bring a new order to the universe. But before that could happen, the threads of destiny were about to intertwine, and the final confrontation between father and son would be an epic battle that would echo throughout the cosmos. Years passed, and hopelessness began to spread throughout Kronos' realm. While he saw himself as an invincible ruler, his own home was marked by tragedy. Every time Rhea gave birth, he hurried to swallow the newborn child, fearing that the fate predicted by Gaia would come true. Hestia, Hades, Demeter, Poseidon, and Hera, all were tragically swallowed one by one right after birth, and Rhea's pain grew with each child lost. She, who once believed that the love and unity of her family could save the world, now saw her children being devoured by her husband, unable to protect them. Kronos' power over the universe made no sense to her if it meant losing her bloodline. She felt an ever-deepening loneliness, but a mother's love never left her, and she knew something had to be done. Among all Kronos' children, there was one who was not like the others. Zeus, Rhea's last child, was secretly conceived in an attempt to save the lineage of the gods. When she learned of her pregnancy, a plan began to form in her mind. She did not want to lose another child to Kronos' tyranny. She decided, therefore, to hide the baby, hoping he would be the final ray of hope to restore justice in the world. When Zeus was born, Rhea was determined to keep his life a secret. She entrusted the baby to nymphs who would raise him in a safe place. To deceive Kronos, she gave him a stone wrapped in cloth, pretending it was the newborn Zeus. When Kronos, as always, swallowed the stone, he believed his safety measure was secure and that he no longer had to fear the future. But fate could not be deceived for long. Zeus was growing in secret. being fed and cared for by the nymphs. He was not only Rhea's son, but also the future savior of the universe. He had been chosen to defeat Kronos and restore the order that the tyrant had destroyed. Rhea, with a broken heart, watched the suffering of her children now trapped within Kronos' body. She knew this pain could not last forever. The salvation plan was in motion, and Zeus would soon take his place in the world, ready to challenge the tyrant. Hope began to be reborn in Rhea's heart. The revolution was about to begin, and the future of the universe would be shaped by Zeus's hands. Kronos still had the power to control the cosmos, but his days were numbered. Time was running out. The fate of all was about to be sealed. Zeus's life until that moment had been marked by secrecy. When he was born, Rhea's hope began to shine brighter. She knew her bloodline's future depended on him. Kronos, as always, ignorant of the manipulations around him, had swallowed the stone and believed the prophecy's threat was eradicated. But the truth was different. The son he feared was safe, being carefully fed and protected by the nymphs who cared for him with devotion. Zeus grew strong and healthy, unaware of the great mission awaiting him. Rhea, consumed by the pain of losing so many children, still carried the hope that Zeus's victory was possible. But she knew she had to deceive Kronos to give Zeus the chance to grow without interruption. Kronos, with his increasing paranoia, had become obsessed with protecting his throne, and any suspicion that the prophecy might be coming true was treated with severity. But Rhea was determined to deceive the tyrant and save her children's future. She had lied to Kronos since Zeus's birth. After her last child's birth, Zeus, and the deception with the stone, Rhea continued to disguise her pain. The idea was to keep him out of Kronos' reach until he was ready to rise against his father. For that, she entrusted Zeus to a hidden cabin in the mountains and relied on Amalthea, the goat, to feed him with divine milk, helping him grow strong and quickly. Zeus, away from his father's sight, became wiser with each passing day. Rhea knew the revelation of Zeus's true identity was approaching. She felt that with each new day, her son was becoming more prepared to face Kronos. But secretly, she also knew that time was running out and that the moment to act was nearly there. Zeus, deep down, felt that his mission was more than just surviving. He felt an inner strength, a wisdom that came from something much greater than himself. During Zeus's growth, the nymphs who cared for him also taught him about destiny and the prophecy, preparing him for the challenges he would face. He learned to control his powers, understand the mysteries of the universe, and prepare to confront Kronos. But there was one aspect Zeus still did not fully understand: how difficult the fight against his father would be, and how much he would have to sacrifice to restore freedom and justice. Kronos, however, had no idea that the son he feared was still alive and growing in power. He continued to rule with an iron fist, increasingly immersed in loneliness, fearing that any of his children, even those he had swallowed, might rise to challenge him. Finally, the moment arrived. Rhea, with a heavy heart but filled with hope, knew it was time to reveal the truth. Zeus was ready. It was time for him to confront Kronos and fulfill his destiny, to destroy his father's reign and bring a new era of peace. The battle was about to begin, and Zeus was about to become the god who would be remembered for generations to come. As Zeus grew stronger, the winds of revolution began to blow louder across the cosmos. The little god, who had until then been nourished by Amalthea, the divine goat who fed him the milk of the gods, was already showing signs that his nature was far from ordinary. His extraordinary abilities began to manifest in impressive ways, and he soon became the hero everyone had expected, never having known the fear his father had imposed on the world. Zeus was not only physically strong, but his mind was as sharp as a blade. He was trained by nymphs and other divine creatures who prepared him for the greatest challenge of his life, to challenge Kronos, the tyrant of the universe. During this time, he was hidden from the eyes of the world, educated and prepared to face his destiny with courage and wisdom. Among the most valuable teachings Zeus received was the control of his divine powers. He was taught to manipulate the natural forces around him, such as lightning and the immense power of thunder, shaping him to become more than just the son of Kronos. He would be a force of nature who would bring a new balance to the world. Zeus was also fed with true ancestral wisdom. He learned the art of strategy and the importance of uniting allies, for he knew that victory against Kronos could not be achieved alone. His own siblings, Hades and Poseidon, were already trapped within Kronos' body, waiting for the moment they would be freed. The mysteries of the universe were also revealed to Zeus, as he began to understand that his mission was beyond a simple physical battle. His true fight was for the restoration of harmony in the cosmos. The divine elements within him, nurtured by Amalthea's milk, made him powerful in ways he had yet to fully understand. The goat Amalthea became not only his caretaker, but also a true guardian. She taught Zeus how to connect with the primordial gods, the forces of the universe, and understand his crucial role in the fight against his father's tyranny. But something much bigger was happening there. Zeus was no longer the innocent baby who had been hidden from Kronos' sight. He was becoming the leader of a new era, the one who would bring liberation to all those oppressed by the old reign. In his moments of reflection, Zeus asked himself, "Am I capable of breaking free from my father's legacy? Can I be the one to change the history of the universe?" He had no doubt that it was his destiny, but the responsibility was enormous. The weight of restoring order rested on his shoulders, and he knew the time for battle was near. He could not hesitate, for the future depended on his courage. Meanwhile, the memory of his siblings swallowed by Kronos burned within him like a flame. Hestia, Demeter, Poseidon, Hades, and Hera were waiting for him. He knew the only way to free them and restore balance was to confront his father, defeat Kronos, and bring freedom back to the universe. Zeus, now stronger than ever, prepared for the great confrontation. The battle against Kronos would not just be a fight of power, but a fight for the liberation of all the gods, the reconstruction of the universe, and the new order that would be established under his leadership. The future was in his hands. The moment of transformation was near. The universe was about to become the stage for a colossal war. Zeus, now fully prepared, felt within him the weight of an immense responsibility. The liberation of his siblings and the destruction of Kronos, the tyrant who held dominion over everything. The time had come. He knew he could not do it alone, so he sought allies, looking for the ancient gods who had been imprisoned by his father's tyranny. His first step was to seek out Hades and Poseidon. They were imprisoned inside Kronos, waiting for the day the prophecy would be fulfilled and their brother would finally be able to confront him. Zeus, with the help of his new abilities and the wisdom he had gained during his training, used divine magic to make Kronos vomit his brothers, freeing them from the belly of the father who had swallowed them. The earth trembled as Hades, with his dark eyes and strong spirit, emerged. Poseidon, with his sharp trident and oceanic strength, rose as well, ready to support his brother in the battle that was to come. Together, the three brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, were ready to challenge Kronos' tyranny and bring justice to a cosmos oppressed by violence and fear. Zeus knew the key to winning the battle was not only brute strength, but the unity of the gods. He made his way to Olympus and summoned the Olympian gods, those still under Kronos' rule, but who also longed for freedom. He inspired them with his powerful words, explaining that liberation was possible, and that together they could overthrow the tyrant and restore peace and order to the universe. The battle was set, and the battlefield was soon established. Olympus against Kronos and the Titans. Every god was ready to give their all. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, would bring her strategy to defeat the enemy. Hera, with her wisdom as a ruler, would unite forces with Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, to strengthen the resistance. Even Artemis and Apollo, with their combat skills and powerful bows, joined the Olympian army. Zeus, with the courage of a natural leader, charged forward, wielding the lightning bolt, the weapon that identified him as the sovereign of the sky and the god of thunder. He knew his greatest enemy was not only Kronos, but also the fear the tyrant had instilled in everyone, including the Titans themselves, who were being used as puppets in his great scheme. As Zeus led the charge, a magical potion, prepared with Gaia's wisdom and delivered by Amalthea, began to take effect. The potion had the power to make Kronos vomit the children he had swallowed so long ago. It was the moment of revenge, the moment to restore balance to the universe. Suddenly, an explosion of energy shook the sky. Zeus' lightning tore through the clouds, illuminating the battlefield. Kronos, with his devastating power, screamed in rage, but could not stop the mortal blow that was coming his way. Poseidon, with his invincible trident, and Hades, with his mastery of shadows, attacked together, giving Zeus the opportunity to land. The final blow. What followed was a battle so fierce that the universe itself seemed to tremble. But Zeus's courage prevailed. He was not only fighting for his own destiny, but for the destiny of all beings inhabiting that world. It was a fight for freedom, for justice, and for the restoration of what was right. Finally, with a cry of desperation and rage, Kronos was defeated. The tyrant fell, his reign of fear and oppression came to an end. The Titans, defeated and imprisoned, were cast into Tartarus, the dark abyss, where they would be eternally contained. Zeus, with his brothers by his side, restored order. The universe began to reorganize under a new era, with Zeus now as the supreme sovereign, bringing balance and justice to all beings. The great revolution had taken place, and thus the future of the universe was shaped, with Zeus leading the gods and bringing the world a new time of peace and prosperity. With Kronos' defeat and the end of his tyranny, the universe seemed finally ready to breathe. However, the aftermath of the Titanomachy was just beginning. Though the Titans had been imprisoned in Tartarus, their loyalties had not disappeared, and their fury against the Olympian gods still burned in their hearts. A great war was about to begin. The battle between the Titans and the Olympian gods would be the confrontation that would define the future of the cosmos forever. The confrontation was imminent. The Titans, who had ruled the universe under the tyranny of Cronus, would not accept their defeat. They were gigantic, powerful, and possessed immense strength, difficult to face by any god. Their numbers were vast, and the rivalry with the Olympian gods only fueled their desire for revenge. Oceanus, Hyperion, Iapetus, Creus, and the other Titans were ready to return to battle, now more furious than ever. However, Zeus, with the leadership of a true ruler, knew he couldn't win alone. He called upon the Olympian gods, asking for their unity in the war that was to come. The battle of the Titanomachy would not only be a struggle of physical strength, but a fight for the very essence of the universe. The gods needed to show not just their might, but their intelligence, cunning, and courage. The Titans' first offensive was brutal. Led by Atlas, who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, they charged against the Olympian gods with immeasurable force. The battle raged across every corner of the universe, from the abyss of Tartarus to the high peaks of Olympus. Zeus and his brothers were at the heart of the battle, fighting with all their strength. To deliver a decisive blow, Zeus freed the Cyclopes and the Hecatonchires, the powerful creatures that had been imprisoned by Cronus in a distant past. They possessed a power the Titans had never faced. The Cyclopes, with their forging abilities, created for Zeus the lightning of absolute power, a weapon capable of destroying any being, even the mightiest of Titans. The Hecatoncheires, with their 100 arms and 50 heads, became the front line of the battle, crushing and immobilizing any Titan that dared to challenge them. The battle, however, was not simple. Oceanus, with his dominion over the seas, tried to flood Olympus, while Hyperion, with the power of the sun, threatened to consume the light of the very universe. But what the Titans did not expect was the unwavering determination of Zeus. He led his allies with courage, not only with the strength of his lightning, but also with a strategic vision that left no room for failure. At the height of the battle, a cosmic earthquake occurred when Zeus, in a gesture of wisdom and power, used his lightning to create a curtain of fire that surrounded the Titans, separating them from one another. Poseidon, with his trident, controlled the seas and sank the forces of Oceanus, and Hades, with his dominion over the shadows, imprisoned the Titans, attempting to escape. The war lasted for 10 years, but in the end, the victory of the Olympian gods was imminent. With the help of the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires, the gods managed to subdue the Titans, weakening their forces and finally sending them back to Tartarus, where they would remain imprisoned forever, with no chance of ever rising again. Zeus, with his brothers and allies by his side, restored balance and order to the universe. But even with the Titans defeated and the Olympian gods victorious, the world would never be the same. Olympus, now established as the center of divine power, was ready to enter a new era, a time of governance, but also of conflicts that would arise even after the Great War. The war had been won, but the story of the universe would continue to unfold, with new challenges, new threats, and the eternal struggle between good and evil. The Titanomachy was the beginning of a new chapter, where Zeus and the Olympian gods would have to deal not only with cosmic forces, but also with the dilemmas of the powerful leadership now entrusted to them. After the victory of Zeus and the Olympian gods in the great Titanomachy, the universe was finally in balance. The battle had been difficult and arduous, but Zeus's victory meant a new era of governance, where he and his brothers would rule Olympus. However, while the Titans were defeated and imprisoned in Tartarus, the fate of Cronus, the ancient god who had ruled with an iron fist, was far from decided. Cronus, the god of time, was responsible for all the tyranny that had marked the golden age of the Titans. His reign, though powerful, was steeped in violence and cruelty. The war between the Titans and the Olympian gods was largely motivated by Cronus's attempt to prevent the prophecy from coming true. One of his children would dethrone him, just as he had done to his own father, Uranus. Zeus, being the child destined to defeat him, had been the one responsible for his downfall, and Cronus knew his time had come to an end. While imprisoned in Tartarus at the depths of the world, the ancient god of time was immersed in his thoughts and regrets. The suffering and humiliation of being defeated and imprisoned by the very children he had feared so much were not easy to bear. However, he still possessed immortality and a peculiar view of time. He knew that, although it was impossible for him to challenge Zeus and the Olympians directly, he could still influence destiny in some way. Cronus spent his days lost in reflection. Tartarus, the dark abyss where the Titans were imprisoned, seemed to be an endless prison, and he didn't know if there was still a chance of escape. The chains that held him were forged by the Cyclopes, and possessed magical powers that made any attempt to escape impossible. However, Cronus, accustomed to time, knew that over time everything could change, even his fate. Meanwhile, on Olympus, Zeus and his brothers were establishing the order of the new cosmos. Poseidon, with his dominion over the seas, and Hades, with control over the underworld, ensured stability and separation of the forces that had once been united under the leadership of the Titans. But a sense of unease lingered over Olympus, as though the end of the war was not the definitive end of all threats. One peaceful night, as the stars shone over Olympus, a familiar voice resonated in the depths of Zeus's mind. It was Gaia, the goddess of the earth, who, with her wisdom and deep vision of the universe, knew that Cronus's end had not truly come. Even imprisoned, the god of time still represented a latent danger, and unless he was completely contained, he could once again alter the flow of reality. Zeus, with his newly acquired wisdom, realized that the true end of Cronus did not lie solely in his physical prison, but in the need to ensure that his temporal influence was nullified. The gods knew that the only way to ensure Cronus could never interfere again was to destroy the very essence of time that he represented. Zeus then planned a final strike to finally seal Cronus's fate. He and his brothers, with the help of Gaia, created a magical force that would erase Cronus's essence of time forever. With the union of their powers, the act of destruction was carried out in silence and with precision. Cronus, without even realizing what was happening, saw his essence destroyed. He could no longer affect time or destiny. When the magic was completed, the universe would never be the same. Cronus, the ancient god of time, disappeared forever, his essence consumed by the very flow of the universe. And thus, the cycle of domination and tyranny came to an end. Zeus, as the god of the sky and lightning, took his place as the new ruler of the world, with a new era of order and justice established over the forces of the universe. However, the disappearance of Cronus was not entirely silent. Somewhere distant in the depths of Tartarus, a subtle sensation of rebirth still lingered in the air. Even with the end of the Titans' era, time would never cease to be a mysterious force, always ready to surprise even the gods. Now, with Cronus finally defeated and his empire crumbling, the universe moved forward, ready for the new challenges ahead. With the fall of Cronus, the reign of the Titans finally came to an end, making way for a new order governed by the Olympian gods. Zeus, the youngest of Cronus and Rhea's children, now held the position of supreme leader, having defeated not only his father, but all the challenges imposed by destiny. However, his rise to power had not been easy, and the new ruler knew that his journey was far from over. After the victory in the Titanomachy, Olympus became the new center of power, and Zeus decided to divide the universe fairly among himself and his brothers. The world was reconfigured, and each of the Olympian brothers received his domain. Zeus would rule the skies and the earth, Poseidon would command the seas and oceans, while Hades would take the underworld, the realm of the dead. Gaia, with her eternal wisdom, helped ensure that each power was balanced according to the natural forces. However, even with the distribution of realms, a sense of distrust still lingered over Olympus. The bloody past, marked by the Titan War, had left deep scars. Zeus knew that although he had defeated the Titans, the world wouldn't be ruled without resistance. New challenges would arise, some from the very forces of the cosmos, and others from the ambitions of the Olympian gods themselves. Zeus, now at the height of his power, was determined to establish a new era of peace and order. But unlike Cronus, who ruled with fear and tyranny, Zeus knew that he had to earn the respect of all, even his own brothers. With this in mind, he did something that many considered bold. He established a council of gods where all the gods could express their wills, concerns, and even their disputes. It would be a form of divine democracy, something completely new on Olympus. Still, insecurity continued to haunt Olympus. While Zeus prepared to consolidate his reign, the winds of destiny began to blow in a peculiar way. The prophecy of Gaia, which had foretold the fall of Cronus at the hands of a son, still echoed in the minds of the gods. Although the direct threat of Cronus was gone, the forces of chaos and mysterious entities in the world were still in motion. The depths of Tartarus hid secrets that even the oldest gods could not foresee. However, Zeus was not blind to the signs. He knew that the universe was dynamic and that he could not become complacent. So, alongside his brothers Poseidon and Hades, he organized a series of battles against cosmic threats that arose sporadically. One such challenge was the rise of the giants, powerful beings born from the earth, who sought to dominate the cosmos. But thanks to his command, the allies he had made along his journey, and the power of his brothers, Zeus defeated the giants, further consolidating his power and that of the Olympian family. However, the true rise of Zeus would not come only from his strength or his ability to win battles. It was his wisdom and vision for the future that would make him the ruler of the universe. Zeus, though powerful, understood the delicate balance between the realms and knew that true leadership came through justice, not fear. The rise of Zeus, therefore, was more than the victory in a war or the conquest of new territories. It was the building of a new cosmic order, where the gods of Olympus would rule with wisdom, and where the fight against chaos would never cease to be a concern, but where peace and justice would be the dominant forces. Olympus became a realm where order was established, but also where fate was never completely predictable. The future was in their hands, and Zeus, with the support of his brothers and allies, was ready to face any challenge the universe could throw at him. Peace would reign on Olympus, but at the same time, Zeus knew that time and chaos would never stop challenging the order of the cosmos. He had the power, but he also had the duty to always maintain balance and ensure that the gods' power did not surpass the limits of nature. And so, Olympus flourished under Zeus's reign, but the relentless pursuit of balance would never cease to be the greatest challenge for the new king of the gods. With Zeus now established as the leader of Olympus, peace seemed finally within reach. However, as many rulers know, peace is often just a moment between storms. Though the new reign had earned the respect of many, challenges and enemies were about to arise, testing the strength and unity of the Olympian gods. The first signs that Zeus's reign would not be completely free of threats came from unexpected sources. The giants, despite having been defeated in epic battles, were not the only evil that lurked in the universe. Typhon, a gigantic creature of chaos born from Tartarus, rose against Olympus, bringing with it a storm of destruction. Typhon was a monstrous entity with 100 dragon heads, flaming eyes, and a strength that rivaled that of all the gods combined. Its presence threatened not only the structure of Olympus, but the very cosmic order that Zeus had tried to establish. The monster, with its uncontrollable fury, made the sky tremble, and the winds at its feet created violent storms throughout the world. Once again, Zeus found himself challenged to protect not just Olympus, but the balance of the universe. The battle against Typhon was one of the hardest Zeus had ever faced. Poseidon, with his trident, and Hades, with his power over the underworld, joined him, forming an alliance of gods that would be the last line of defense against the creature of chaos. As Zeus faced Typhon in the skies with his lightning, his brothers fought fiercely by his side. The battle was fierce, and Olympus itself shook under the monster's attacks. However, with great effort, Zeus finally managed to defeat Typhon, imprisoning him in Tartarus, where he would never escape. The victory was a great triumph for the gods, but also a reminder that Zeus's reign would not be without challenges. After Typhon's fall, peace returned, but Zeus's heart knew that as long as chaos existed in the universe, there would always be the risk of new enemies rising. However, in his reign, he would strive to ensure that Olympus remained strong and united. and that the forces of evil were always kept under control. Soon after, another challenge arose, this time closer to the heart of Olympus, internal disputes among the gods themselves. The newly formed Olympic order was far from peaceful, and the desire for domination and power created constant tensions. Even among Zeus's brothers, there were disagreements that threatened to weaken the newly established alliance. Poseidon, dissatisfied with not having full control over the seas, began a series of disputes with Zeus, questioning his authority. Hades, on the other hand, felt marginalized in his reign over the underworld, being left out of the major decisions affecting the world of the living. These rivalries, though they seemed minor compared to external challenges, began to undermine the cohesion of the Olympian gods. Zeus's reign was being tested not only by the monsters of the world, but by the internal ambitions of his own brothers. The disputes began to threaten the stability of his government, and Zeus had to act to restore unity among the gods. Instead of resorting to force, Zeus decided to call a series of assemblies on Olympus where all the gods could voice their concerns and desires. This helped calm the tensions and restore a sense of unity among the gods. Although the rivalries did not disappear completely, Zeus's approach helped consolidate his authority, ensuring that Olympus remained united. However, the struggle for power and control was not limited to the gods themselves. The mortal world was also affected by the cosmic forces the gods played with. Mortals who sought power or divine favor began to act unpredictably, forcing Zeus to balance divine intervention with the need to preserve human freedom. The first major conflict between gods and mortals occurred when a group of mortal heroes tried to challenge the gods' dominion, seeking to alter their very destinies. These early internal and external conflicts marked Zeus's rise as the leader of Olympus and the universe, but also showed that his reign would be constantly tested by those who sought to challenge the divine order. For now, Zeus had triumphed, but the internal war among the gods and the threats from the outside world would never stop. The balance he had fought so hard to establish in the cosmos would depend on his ability to handle conflicts, whether internal or cosmic. With Mount Olympus now firmly established and the Olympian gods having restored balance, a new story began to unfold in the mortal world. As Zeus and his brothers consolidated their rule, a distinct and audacious figure emerged: Prometheus, the titan of wisdom and cunning. Prometheus, though originating from the side of the Titans, did not align himself with his brothers and allies. Instead of supporting Cronus's cause or any other faction that fought against the Olympian gods, he proved to be curious, intelligent, and, in many ways, humanistic. He had a bold vision for the role of mortals in the cosmos and believed that humans deserved more than simply living under divine rule. Prometheus saw humans as a race capable of greatness, worthy of autonomy and wisdom. Zeus, however, did not share this vision. As the ruler of the universe, he believed mortals were weak, prone to failure, and thus needed to live under his supervision. To Zeus, humans were merely a part of the grand cosmic plan, something that should submit to divine order without question. But Prometheus could not see things this way. He felt a deep empathy for humans and, in his wisdom, decided to act according to his own principles. Prometheus made an audacious decision. He would create humans, giving them life and form, and then, to ensure they would not live in darkness and ignorance, he would give them something of immense value: fire. For him, fire represented knowledge, culture, and the key to humanity's progress. Under the cover of night, while Zeus rested in his palace on Olympus, Prometheus descended to earth and hid a divine flame, taken from Zeus's very own home, inside a branch. With the flame in hand, he went to the mortals and bestowed upon them fire, teaching them how to use it. He not only brought physical fire, but also the fire of knowledge, showing them how to build shelters, create tools, and, most importantly, how to light the way for human progress. The humans, upon receiving the fire, began to evolve, constructing civilizations and understanding the world around them. They learned the art of cooking, protecting themselves from the elements, and even working with metals. To them, fire was a divine gift that made them different from any other creature on Earth. However, Prometheus's actions did not go unnoticed by Zeus. The supreme god of Olympus was furious. Zeus saw humanity as something to be kept in ignorance and subordination, and Prometheus's act was a direct violation of divine order. Zeus, enraged, decided to punish the Titan and make him pay for his audacity. Zeus summoned Hermes, the messenger of the gods, and ordered him to capture Prometheus. The Titan, however, was not intimidated. He knew his actions would have consequences, but believed he had given humanity a gift far more precious than any punishment he might face. Zeus then condemned Prometheus to a cruel and eternal fate. He was chained to a rock in the Caucasus, where an eagle, symbol of Zeus, would come every day to devour his liver, which would regenerate every night. Thus, Prometheus's suffering would never end. But Prometheus's punishment did not stop humanity. On the contrary, his decision to bring fire was the seed of all that humans would come to achieve. The flame that Prometheus gave them was not only a physical fire, but also a symbol of freedom, of humanity's ability to evolve, discover, and overcome adversity. And despite the pain and suffering the Titan endured, he knew he had fulfilled his mission. He had given humans the ability to change the course of their lives. Prometheus's story became a legend throughout the world, remembered as an example of sacrifice and unconditional love for a race that was still learning to find its way. Through his courage, he proved that sometimes the greatest gifts are those that challenge even the gods. However, even with all his bravery, Prometheus's punishment continued, and the Titan never ceased to suffer. But he knew, in his heart, that the price of his actions, no matter how painful, had been just because he had given man what Zeus could not: freedom to grow, learn, and challenge destiny itself. While Prometheus endured his eternal punishment for giving fire to humans, Zeus was not satisfied. He was furious with the Titan, but he knew that somehow he needed to punish the mortals themselves for accepting the gift that he saw as an act of rebellion. The supreme god of Olympus knew humanity needed to be taught a lesson about disobeying the gods. In his anger, Zeus devised a punishment for all humankind, something as devastating as his vengeance on Prometheus. He ordered Hephaestus, the god of fire and forge, to create a woman, a perfect woman, but with a nature that brought with it the greatest evils for mankind. Thus Pandora was born. She was made in the image of a divine woman, with radiant beauty and a charming personality, but with a deadly secret hidden within her being. Zeus, in his cunning, left nothing to chance. Pandora was endowed with qualities, but also flaws that would later become her great tragedy. She was given to mortals, but at the same time, she carried with her a box that should never be opened under any circumstances. This box contained all the evils of the world, everything that could corrupt and destroy humanity, from diseases, misery, to the most terrible vices. The box Pandora carried was a gift from Zeus to her, but at the same time, it was a trap carefully planned. He knew that human curiosity was uncontrollable, and that sooner or later, Pandora would give in to the temptation to open the box. He warned her, "Do not open it," but deep down Zeus knew she wouldn't resist, and indeed Pandora did not resist. Over time, Pandora began to feel an increasing curiosity about what was inside the box. No matter how much she knew, opening it could bring disaster. Human curiosity is a force hard to ignore. And it was this very curiosity that ultimately led Pandora to open the mystery the gods had entrusted to her. When the box was opened, a wave of indescribable evils spread throughout the world. Diseases, suffering, sorrow, injustice. All of these and more escaped from the box, spreading across the planet and touching every human being. What had once been a relatively simple life for mortals now became a life filled with pain and challenges. The nature of humanity would never be the same again, forever marked by the evils Pandora released. But when Pandora saw what she had done, her heart filled with regret. She tried to close the box as quickly as possible, but there was something more inside, something that remained. It was hope. When she looked into the box, she saw that hope was the only thing left, shining and persisting amidst all the other evils. This small and fragile ray of light was the only thing capable of alleviating the suffering of human souls. Hope, though small, became the only consolation for mortals, allowing them to continue fighting against adversity. But still, the damage had been done, and humanity would never be the same. Suffering, loneliness, doubt, all of these became part of the human condition, a bitter inheritance from curiosity and disobedience to the gods. And so, Pandora became a symbol of human curiosity and error. She was a divine woman, but marked by a tragedy that affected not only her, but all humans. Her story became etched in collective memory, and over time, she became an eternal lesson for future generations. Curiosity can be one of the greatest gifts, but it can also be one of the greatest curses. And while hope still shines in the bottom of the box, it will never be enough to erase the weight of the consequences of the mistakes made. Pandora, just like the humans touched by the box, came to be remembered as the first and most tragic of figures representing the fate of humanity. An eternal search between good and evil, between curiosity and tragedy, and, in the end, a reminder that not all mysteries should be unraveled. With the evils that Pandora had unleashed, humanity began to live in a new world, marked by pain, constant struggle and uncertainty. However, the Olympian gods, especially Zeus, continued to observe the mortals with interest. What once seemed like a world of pure innocence and harmony was now a land of conflicts and dramas, where humans, in their fragility, had to adapt to the conditions imposed by the gods. The intervention of the gods in human life was never a simple matter. To many, the gods were superior beings, whose desires and decisions were unquestionable. To others, they were merely capricious and unpredictable, often cruel in their actions. And with the weight of the tragedy unleashed by Pandora, the decisions of Zeus and the other gods began to directly affect the lives of mortals in unexpected and devastating ways. Zeus, in particular, became a figure of unwavering authority. He watched humanity with a stern gaze, aware that Prometheus had defied his authority and given mortals the fire. Although the fire was a precious gift, it also brought with it the capacity for destruction, the creation of weapons of war, and the challenge to the order established by the gods. Thus, Zeus knew that humans were now more dangerous than ever. To ensure that the cosmic order was maintained, Zeus began to act directly in the lives of mortals, setting in motion a game of influence and punishment. Heroes and villains arose, forged by divine will and battles against the gods. Every action of the mortals was now deeply intertwined with the intervention of the gods in the world. For example, there were great heroes like Hercules, who, despite being a mortal, received help from the gods on his mission to purify the world of monsters and obstacles. However, even with all his strength and courage, Hercules was not free from the gods' wrath. His life was marked by divine provocations and trials that challenged his very human nature. Zeus did not hesitate to test his heroes, placing them in situations that could crush any ordinary mortal. But it wasn't only the heroes who attracted the gods' attention. Ordinary mortals also became the targets of divine irritations. For example, the case of Arachne, a skilled weaver, was one of many in which humanity found itself in direct conflict with the gods. When Arachne challenged Athena, the goddess of wisdom and weaving, the mortal found herself transformed into a spider, as punishment for the arrogance of comparing herself to a goddess. And so, the conflicts between the gods and humans began to intensify. The decisions of Zeus and the actions of the other gods became a constant in the lives of mortals, and often their lives were determined by divine will. For some mortals, this meant being elevated to greatness and honor. For others, it meant being destroyed and forgotten. But regardless of the situation, humans were now irrevocably intertwined with the divine will. The gods were relentless, and their actions influenced the destinies of men in unimaginable ways. As always, there were those who accepted divine intervention as part of the natural order of the world and submitted to their power, while others tried to defy the gods at all costs, attempting to write their own destinies. However, in the end, a pattern repeated itself. Regardless of how mortals fought or how the gods tested them, one element always persisted: the search for hope. Even amidst so much pain and despair, mortals continued to seek ways to survive, to fight against the obstacles placed by the gods, and perhaps even to free themselves from divine dominion. The struggle between humans and gods never had a clear end, as the divine forces seemed insurmountable. But in every act of resistance, in every act of bravery against the gods' influences, mortals saw reflected their own humanity. Even when Zeus or other gods imposed their wills, the flame of freedom and hope never completely extinguished. The gods, always vigilant, knew this. They knew that the humility or arrogance of mortals would always generate conflicts. But they also knew that this struggle between the human and the divine would always keep the world in motion, with all its highs and lows, trials and victories, light and shadow. And so the conflicts between the gods and humans became the center of Greek mythology, where each story intertwined, and the line between the divine and the human became ever more tenuous, challenging the boundaries of what is possible and what is imagined. The winds of history blow strong, carrying with them the seeds of myths, gods, and heroes that, over time, transform into immortal legacies. The stories of ancient Greece with their gods, monsters, and heroes spread across the world, infecting culture, shaping the imagination, and influencing art, literature, and philosophy for centuries. As the centuries passed, the power of mythological stories did not diminish. They became cultural foundations, permeating not only Greece, but all civilizations that encountered them. In ancient Rome, Greek stories mixed with local traditions, creating new versions and reinterpretations. Gods like Zeus transformed into Jupiter, Aphrodite into Venus, but the lessons and teachings of their stories remained the same. The legacy of Greek mythology was not only in the words and texts that survived to this day. It manifested in the sculptural art of Phidias and Praxiteles, in the tragedies of Sophocles and Euripides, in the illusions of Homer, and in the philosophical reflections of Plato and Aristotle. Each Greek myth fueled the human spirit, challenging the limits of morality, reason, and imagination. For example, the tragedies of Oedipus and Antigone were not just tragic stories of cruel fates, but powerful lessons about destiny, morality, and the consequences of human choices. Heroes like Achilles and Odysseus, with their human weaknesses, were still symbols of strength, courage, and endurance. Each myth carried with it a profound lesson about the human condition, its flaws, and its highest aspirations. During the Renaissance, artists looked at mythological figures in a new light. Michelangelo, for instance, was deeply inspired by mythological figures in his sculptures, such as the David, which reflected the strength and dignity of ancient heroes. Botticelli's paintings, with their depictions of Aphrodite, Venus, and Pallas Athena, brought the mythological beauty back to life in dazzling forms. And it was in this resurgence of interest in ancient stories that Greek myths came to life in new versions. The adaptations for the theatre became epic, and modern versions of heroes like Hercules were revisited in films and books. Modern pop culture has drawn from Greek mythology in unexpected ways, from superhero movies like those from Marvel, which remind us of the tales of demigod heroes, to TV series like Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, which interpreted the ancient myths with a more fun and accessible approach. Additionally, the legacy of Greek mythology was also present in something more subtle, the ideas and concepts that spread throughout the Western world, the concept of heroism, the pursuit of wisdom, the moral dilemmas faced by the characters, and the teachings about the power of human emotions are still incorporated today in literature, cinema, philosophy, and psychology. The myth became a universal language, used to explore the depths of the human psyche, so much so that even modern myths resonate with the ancient stories of love, hatred, revenge, and overcoming challenges. The fascination with these mythological stories is immeasurable. With each generation, Greek mythology continues to be discovered and rediscovered, as if it were eternally alive, waiting to be heard. Each book telling the story of Hercules, each film inspired by Aphrodite, and even philosophical debates about the nature of power reflect the cultural richness and deep teachings of these timeless stories. The gods and heroes of ancient Greece were not just myth creators for entertainment, but masters who taught generations of humans about life's challenges, about the need for resilience in the face of adversity, about the value of wisdom and virtue. And even though civilizations change, the legacy of Greek mythology will continue to resonate for millennia, touching the lives and hearts of all who allow themselves to look to the past and, within it, find the answers for the present. Myths, as a blend of art, wisdom, and history, continue to shape the world. And so, the legacy of Greek mythology continues to influence everything around us, from the stories we tell to the lessons we learn. Centuries of wisdom, adventure, and teachings help us better understand who we are and what we are capable of achieving. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which Greek myth has had the most impact on your life? Which story do you think still resonates in our modern world? Leave your comment down below. I'd love to know what you think. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content about mythology, history, and everything that involves these epic stories that shape us. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.